Okay, I think we're ready now to start inserting our SketchUp models into place. So I think I'll do this from the factory floor level, because that's the level at which the SketchUp model was based on. The 00 origin of the SketchUp model is the factory floor. So while we're in that view there, I want to actually bring this first building model in from SketchUp. That would be the one we call mass. I want to create it as a mass. Now the reason for creating anything as a mass in SketchUp is because you're then going to use it as a guide and create walls by clicking on the faces of your mass. You'll soon see how that applies as we go on. So what I need to do there is, it's probably under the massing and site. Yeah, under massing and site, we'll click on in place mass, and that'll take us. Just click close to that. That's just telling you that it's turned the visibility of masses on for you. We'll just call this one building mass. Name's not terribly important. Now that's taken you into the family editor for the massing family editor here. So instead of actually using any of the massing commands to create shapes and forms while we're in this editor, I'm simply going to insert our SketchUp model. So I'll go to the Insert tab while we're in this mode, and we'll do Import CAD. Now I'll just scroll to a directory. We'll change the files of type to SketchUp files, and the one that we wanted will have been the one that you named mass at this stage. The other one was going to be the portal frame, so I'll just make sure I'm in the right location here. Be a couple of locations. Okay. Okay. So we've got the file that we called mass and also the file we called portal. I'm going to use the mass one at this stage. Now, careful not to double click on that because we're not finished with it yet. The colours, I would probably just preserve them to whatever colours they are. Layers, we'll bring all the layers in, and the import units should be okay if we auto detect. If that doesn't work, we'll back out of the command and come back in here and select the units to be millimetres. But at this stage I'll leave it auto detect. Positioning, I'd like to at this stage make it a manual positioning, and we might manually position the centre of the SketchUp model by pointing on the screen. Leave Orient to View selected. Make sure you do not have Current View Only on. And I'll just click Open to that. And looks like our units have worked. And just initially, I'll place the mass somewhere off to there. Okay. And I think I might even just finish the mass at that point. That's okay, that dialog box is quite okay. So we can now, with knowing some information about a few things here, we need to now go and position this mass in the correct location on our drawing with respect to the grid lines, etc. So we'll need to know something about how we created this for the moment. The other thing that might help us just for now is if we go to the View tab and click Thin Lines. And while we've got Thin Lines clicked, that's just going to make it easier for us to see a few things. Okay, so with Thin Lines on, I know that this is obviously the concrete tilt-up panel that I'm hovering over the top of at the moment. So I know from the outside of that concrete tilt-up panel, 150mm back from that will be one of the grid lines. So I might just put a reference plane in for the moment. So on your home menu, right over the side here is reference plane. So I'm going to draw a reference plane initially just in line with the outside of that, but then I'm going to select it and move it from somewhere in space downwards 150. Now, it's most important that I didn't put it straight on top of that line. You might have thought, why didn't I just do that? Remember, we made this concrete tilt-up panel 0.2 of a millimetre thinner than it should have been. Now the other thing, I'll do another reference plane on the edge of the concrete tilt-up panel, and from memory so I'll escape out of that and move that, and from memory we placed that 200 millimetres. So I think we sailed past our concrete tilt-up panel 200 millimetres past the reference plane. So I'll just extend those reference planes out a little bit longer, so I make sure they intersect and I can see what I'm doing. Okay, and I'm then just going to pick up that, so I'll do a crossing window and the reference planes, and I'll move them from, I want to hover over and try and get, so zoom right up, and I want to get the intersection of the reference planes. Now while you're hovering there and it says intersection, cast your eye to the bottom left hand area of the screen and make sure it does say intersection of reference plane and reference plane, and then you can click, and then that position there will sit on this second grid line here, I think. So we want intersection of grid X1 and grid Y0. So that's placed our model in, I think, the correct location. Okay, so that is a mass. Let me show you, we'll go to a 3D view. The little house at the top of the screen here will open up a 3D view for you, and if you click on the massing and site toolbar, you see that show mass is selected at the moment up in the toolbar. If I unshow mass, it disappears. Show mass, it's there. Now you might like to work on a shaded with edges view at the moment, and your mass is showing up. And that's just been brought in straight from SketchUp. Now what we will then do, I'll just show you how we'll set up the next little bit, and then we'll pause the video. But we're going to do a model by face, and we're going to model walls. So it's all going to be model by face walls. Now at the moment I've got selected here already a 190 block wall. So these walls down in underneath the basement, they're all 190 block. So I could select that face and orbit around, and then of course that face, and so on and so forth. And I'm changing that, well, I'm not changing those faces, I'm actually overlaying a real Revit wall on top of those faces of the mass. So I'll just select a few more, and I'll turn the mass off so you can see a bit of what I've been doing. So just by selecting those, possibly that one, and I can probably pick up some of these from this view. There'll be another way of picking up these walls if you're finding it hard to see also. Okay, there we are. Now I think. Okay, so I'll just show you the effect of what I've done now. If I go back to the massing and site menu, if I turn mass off, you can see then that I'm just left with those walls that are concrete block walls. The mass just created some massing geometry to allow me to turn those faces of the mass into concrete block walls. So your task now will be to set about creating more wall families to suit the different types of walls that you've got in your model, and just use the model by face. But I'll just stop the video now, and I'll get you started on the next bit.